Yuna coordinated it all, identifying timing, backup plans, and contingencies. She also insisted on one ab 6 months had passed since Yuna's team prevented the attacks on the research stations. The galaxy had changed in that time, though not in ways anyone had expected. The Galactic Coalition formally adopted the Yuna protocols as standard procedure for threat assessment. Military academies across 60 worlds now taught courses on asymmetric warfare, psychological tactics, and non-lethal conflict resolution. The textbooks used Yuna's infiltration of the Vraxian station as a case study. Commander Thane himself became one of the instructors. He had requested the assignment after spending months analyzing what had happened to his station. Now he taught young Vraxian officers about the mistakes he had made, the assumptions he had gotten wrong, and the lessons he had learned. On a warm afternoon at the Coalition Military Academy on the neutral world of Sanctuary Prime, Thane stood before a class of 40 students from 12 different species. He pulled up the security footage that every military officer in the galaxy had now seen. The moment Yuna stepped off her shuttle onto his station. "What do you see?" Thane asked his students. "A small human female," one student answered. "No visible weapons, no armor. She appears non-threatening." "Exactly," Thane said. "That is what I saw too. That is what my scanners told me. And that is why I lost control of my station within 3 days." He paused. "Who can tell me what I should have seen instead?" A student from the Milor hives raised one of her multiple appendages. "You should have seen an intelligence operative on a mission. Someone trained, prepared, and dangerous regardless of physical appearance." "Correct," Thane acknowledged. "But more than that, I should have asked myself a simple question. Why would the humans send one person alone to face 300 armed warriors? What did they know that I did not?" The class discussed this for an hour. They analyzed every decision Thane had made, identifying the moments where he could have prevented the infiltration. But they also discussed Yuna's restraint, her deliberate choice not to harm anyone, her focus on accomplishing her mission with minimum force. "That is the part that troubles me most," Thane admitted to his students. "She could have killed all of us. It would have been easier than what she actually did." Taking control of systems without casualties required more skill, more planning, more effort than simple destruction. What does it say about humanity that they choose the harder path? A young Krath student whose species had also been infiltrated by humans spoke up. "It says they value life, even enemy life. But it also says they are confident. They do not need to kill to prove they are strong. They already know they are strong." "Wise observation," Thane said. "Remember that in your future careers. The most dangerous opponents are not the ones who want to kill you. They are the ones who could kill you but choose not to, because they are playing a longer game than you understand." While Thane taught at the academy, Yuna had returned to Earth for extended leave. General Jiwoo had insisted she take time to rest, recover, and process everything that had happened. But rest did not come easily. Yuna's face was now recognized across the galaxy. She could not walk through a spaceport without being stopped for questions, requests for autographs, or challenges from those who wanted to test themselves against the famous infiltrator. She had never wanted fame. She had only wanted to do her job well. She spent most of her time at a small house in the countryside, far from cities and spaceports. She grew vegetables, read books, and tried to live quietly. But even there, messages found her. Admiral Cade sent her a formal letter of apology on behalf of the Vraxian Empire, acknowledging that his forces had acted unjustly during the Helios 7 blockade. Dasam, the intelligence officer, sent friendly messages updating Yuna on her work developing better threat assessment protocols. Young Rax, the guard Yuna had spared, sent a photo of himself in a new uniform. He had transferred to diplomatic security and credited Yuna with showing him a better path. And Yunji, the 8-year-old girl from Helios 7, sent drawings, colorful pictures of spaceships, planets, and a small figure labeled Lieutenant Yuna. Each drawing came with a note about what Yunji was learning in school, how her grandmother was healthy, how the colony was thriving. Those drawings meant more to Yuna than all the medals and commendations combined. But the message that changed everything came on a quiet morning in early spring. General Jiwoo appeared on Yuna's communication screen, her expression serious. "Lieutenant, I hope you have been resting well, but I need you to come to headquarters. We have a situation." Yuna felt a familiar tension in her chest. What kind of situation, ma'am? The kind where 5 species have formally requested human assistance. They want us to teach them our methods. They want to learn how to fight the way we fight, smart, precise, and non-lethal when possible. That is good news, is it not? Yuna asked. Yes and no, Jiwoo replied. It is good that they want to learn, but teaching them means revealing our methods, our training, our tactics. Some in our government worry that we are giving away our advantages. So what does Command want to do? They want to establish a military academy, a place where humans and other species train together, learning these new approaches to conflict, and they want you to lead it. Yuna was stunned. Ma'am, I am not qualified to run an academy. I am a field operative. You are the person who changed how the galaxy thinks about warfare, Jiwoo countered. You are the proof that these methods work. Your name carries weight. Students will come because you are teaching them. And more importantly, you understand the philosophy behind what we do, using minimum force, preserving life, preventing wars instead of winning them. Yuna thought about it carefully. She remembered Yunji's drawings, her dream of growing up to help people. She thought about young Rax, changing his career path after their encounter. She thought about all the people who might die in future conflicts if no one taught better alternatives. I will do it, Yuna said, but I have conditions. Name them. The academy must accept students from any species, including former enemies. The curriculum must emphasize restraint and ethics, not just tactics. And we must never forget that the goal is peace, not victory. Jiwoo smiled. Those are excellent conditions. I accept them all. Report to Sanctuary Prime in 2 weeks. We have already begun construction on the facility. The academy opened 6 months later. It was a beautiful campus on a cliff overlooking an ocean on Sanctuary Prime, a neutral world governed by the Galactic Coalition. The buildings were designed to accommodate different species' physical needs, varied gravity levels, atmospheric controls, and different furniture types. On opening day, 200 students arrived from 20 different species. Some were young military officers sent by their governments. Others were civilians who wanted to learn conflict resolution. A few were former enemies of humanity, including 3 Vraxians, 2 Krath, and 1 Melor representative. Yuna stood before them on that first morning, feeling nervous. Public speaking had never been her strength. She preferred working quietly, unseen, but now she stood on a stage in front of hundreds of students and dozens of cameras broadcasting across the galaxy. Welcome, she began simply. I am Commander Yuna. I am not a traditional military officer. I have never commanded troops in battle. I have never fired a weapon at another person. Yet I have prevented wars, protected civilians, and accomplished missions that others thought impossible. How did I do this? She paused, looking at the diverse faces staring back at her. I learned to fight differently, not with strength but with intelligence, not with weapons but with information, not by trying to kill my enemies but by convincing them that fighting me would be their biggest mistake. That is what I am here to teach you. Over the following months, the Academy developed its curriculum. Students learned computer systems and network security from Hana. They learned infiltration and disguise techniques from Junho. They learned psychological tactics from Taeyong. They learned strategy and ethics from Yuna herself, but they also learned from instructors who had been on the other side. Commander Thane taught a course called How Humans Defeated Me, analyzing his mistakes in painful detail. Dasm taught intelligence analysis and cultural understanding. Even Admiral Cade visited occasionally, speaking about the strategic implications of non-lethal warfare. The Academy became famous for its unique approach. Traditional military schools taught how to win battles. Yuna's Academy taught how to avoid fighting them in the first place. Students learned to see conflict as a puzzle to be solved, rather than an enemy to be destroyed. They practiced infiltration exercises, where success meant completing objectives without being detected. They studied historical battles and asked not, how could we have won, but how could this have been prevented? One student stood out among all others. Her name was Isul, a young human woman from a farming colony. She had lost her parents to a pirate raid and joined the academy, hoping to learn to protect others. She was not physically strong or naturally talented with technology, but she had something else, an absolute determination to prevent others from suffering as she had suffered. Yuna saw herself in Isul. She spent extra time mentoring her, teaching her the subtle skills that did not come from textbooks, how to read people's body language. 1 week passed. The Vraxian blockade was gone. The colonists on Helios 7 received food, medicine, and supplies. Children played in the streets again. Elderly people sat in the sun, their health improving. The crisis had ended, but for Una, something new had begun. The story of what happened at the Vraxian station spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Every species heard about the unarmed human woman who had walked into a military installation and taken control without firing a weapon. News networks reported it. Military academies studied it. Diplomats debated it. The Galactic Coalition called an emergency session. Representatives from 60 different species gathered to discuss what this incident meant for the future of interstellar relations. Ambassador Boyung represented the Vraxian Empire. She stood before the assembly and spoke honestly. We made assumptions based on physical appearance. Our scanners measured strength, weapons, and armor. They did not measure intelligence, creativity, or determination. Humanity has shown us that we must change how we assess threats. The representative from the Thalon Accord, a species of large insect-like beings, clicked its mandibles nervously. If one human can do this, what prevents them from infiltrating all of our installations? How can we defend against an enemy we cannot detect? General Jiwoo, representing humanity, stood to respond. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen many battles. You defend against us by not making us your enemy. Lieutenant Una infiltrated the station because innocent people were starving. She used non-lethal methods. She could have killed everyone but chose not to. That should tell you something important about humanity. It tells us that you are dangerous, the Thalon representative said. No, Jiwoo replied. It tells you that we value life, even our enemies' lives. We fight when we must, but we prefer peace. Judge us by our restraint, not our capability. The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted new security protocols. Others wanted treaties limiting human intelligence operations. A few wanted to strengthen their alliance with humanity, recognizing that having humans as friends was far better than having them as enemies. In the end, the coalition established new guidelines called the UNA protocols. They were rules for first contact and threat assessment that accounted for species whose strength came from technology and intelligence rather than physical power. Una watched the proceedings from Earth, where she had returned for mandatory rest. She sat in her small apartment drinking tea and reading reports on her data pad. She had not asked to become famous. She had simply done her job. But the galaxy had other ideas. Her face appeared on news broadcasts across hundreds of worlds. Some called her a hero. Others called her a threat. Some species wanted to hire human advisors to teach them similar tactics. Other species wanted humans banned from their territories entirely. Una ignored most of it. She focused on the one thing that mattered, the messages from Helios 7. The colonists had sent hundreds of thank you notes. Families wrote about children who were healthy again. Farmers described their relief at finally planting crops with proper equipment. Teachers thanked her for saving their students. One message made Una cry. It was from a young girl named Yoonji, age 8. She had written in careful handwriting, "Dear Lieutenant Una, thank you for saving us. My grandmother was very sick, but now she is better. When I grow up, I want to be brave like you. I want to help people too. You showed me that you do not need to be big or strong to make a difference. You just need to care about others and be smart. Thank you for teaching me that." Una saved that message. She read it whenever she felt tired or discouraged. 2 weeks after the incident, Una received orders to report to the Human Defense Fleet headquarters. She put on her uniform, tied her hair back, and took a transport to the orbital station where General Jiwoo maintained her office. The general greeted her warmly. "Lieutenant, please sit. We have much to discuss." Una sat in the simple chair across from Jiwoo's desk. The general poured 2 cups of tea, a gesture of respect in their culture. "You did well at Helios 7, Jiwoo said. "Better than we hoped. 0 casualties. Successful negotiation. The colonists are safe. That is excellent work. Thank you, ma'am. However, your success has created a new problem. 6 species are now testing humanity. They want to know if what you did was exceptional luck or if all humans are capable of such tactics." Una sipped her tea. "I was not lucky, ma'am. I was trained. Any operative with similar training could have accomplished the same mission. I know that. You know that. But these species do not believe it yet. They think you are unique. So they are planning to test us." Jiwoo pulled up a holographic display. It showed star maps with 6 systems marked in red. The Krath Confederacy, the Melor Hives, and the Tarn Collective have formed a secret alliance. They plan simultaneous attacks on 3 of our research stations in 30 days. They believe we cannot defend all 3 locations at once. Why would they attack research stations? Yuna asked. There are no military assets there. Exactly. They want to see how we respond when civilians are threatened. They want to test our capabilities. If we respond with overwhelming military force, they will claim we are aggressive. If we fail to protect our stations, they will claim we are weak. Either way, they believe they win. Yuna understood immediately. They are putting us in an impossible situation. Yes, which is why I need you to make it possible again. Jiwoo changed the display to show personnel files. I am assembling a team. 3 targets, 3 teams. You will lead the overall operation. Yuna looked at the files. Ma'am, I am a lieutenant. Should this not be led by someone with more experience? You have more experience in this type of operation than anyone else in the fleet, Jiwoo said simply. You infiltrated a hostile installation, disabled their systems, and accomplished your objectives without casualties. I need you to do it again, 3 times, simultaneously. The files showed 3 specialists: Chunyo, an infiltration expert who could disguise himself as different species; Hana, a systems analyst who understood computer networks better than anyone; Taeyong, a psychological warfare specialist who could manipulate situations without violence. These are the best we have, Jiwoo said. But they need a leader who has done this before. They need you. Yuna felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. What are the rules of engagement? Same as before. No casualties if possible. Disable their ability to attack, but do not destroy their installations. We want to prevent a war, not start one. And if you fail, those 3 research stations will be destroyed. Hundreds of our people will die, and humanity will be forced into a war we do not want. Jiwoo met Yuna's eyes. No pressure, Yuna almost smiled. When do we start? Immediately. Your team is waiting in briefing room 7. You have 28 days to plan and execute 3 simultaneous infiltrations across 3 different species territories. The Krath, the Melor, and the Tarn have very different security systems, cultures, and technologies. You will need to adapt your approach for each one. Yuna stood and bowed. I will not fail, ma'am. I know you will not, Jiwoo said, because failure is not an option. Yuna left the office and walked to briefing room 7. She felt nervous but also strangely calm. This was what she had trained for. This was what she was good at. Inside the room, 3 people waited. Yuno was a young man with an easy smile and observant eyes. Hana was a serious woman who was already studying technical documents on her datapad. Taeyong was older, perhaps 40, with a thoughtful expression. They all stood when Yuna entered. She gestured for them to sit. Please, we are a team. No need for formality. You are the woman who took over the Vraxian station, Junho said, his voice full of admiration. I watched the security footage they released. It was beautiful work. It was necessary work, Yuna corrected gently. And now we must do it again, but harder. She pulled up the mission briefing on the room's holographic display. For the next 3 hours, they studied their targets. The Krath Confederacy had military installations with heavy physical security. The Melor Hives operated through networked intelligence. All their computers were connected in a hive mind structure. The Tarn Collective relied on social hierarchies and strict cultural protocols. Each target required completely different tactics. The timeline is tight, Hana observed. We have less than 30 days to infiltrate 3 separate installations on 3 different worlds. We will split up, Yuna said. Each of us will lead 1 infiltration. I will coordinate from a central location and provide support as needed. You are not going in yourself? Taeyong asked, surprised. I will be infiltrating all 3 simultaneously in a way, Yuna replied, through communication, coordination, and backup planning. But you 3 are specialists. You know your areas better than I do. I trust you to execute your missions. My job is to ensure you have everything you need to succeed. Over the following days, they planned meticulously. Yunho would approach the Krath using disguises and false identities, blending into their military structure. Hana would infiltrate the Melor computer network remotely, using their connected systems against them. Taeyong would enter the Tarn Collective openly, using diplomatic credentials and psychological manipulation. I just want you to lift the blockade and let food reach the hungry colonists below. My mission is to save lives, not take them." Admiral Cade stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at the screen showing the enormous colony transport. Behind it, 3 more ships appeared. These were clearly military vessels, smaller but heavily armed. They formed a protective formation around the transport. A new voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Cade, this is General Jiwoo of the Human Defense Fleet. I believe you have one of my officers on your station. I would like her back." Cade recognized the tone. It was the voice of someone who had been patient for a long time and was running out of patience. "Your officer infiltrated our installation, disabled our systems, and essentially took control of a Vraxian military station. That is an act of war." "Actually, Admiral, it was an act of desperation," General Jiwoo replied. "We asked you nicely to let food reach starving civilians. You refused. We sent a diplomat to negotiate. You imprisoned her. We had to show you that continuing this blockade would be a mistake." "You are threatening the Vraxian Empire," Cade said. "No, Admiral. We are explaining reality to you. Lieutenant Yuna disabled your station without killing anyone. She could have vented atmosphere from every section. She could have destroyed your life support. She could have turned your own weapons against you. She did none of those things because her orders were to avoid casualties. But make no mistake, if you harm her, my orders are very different." On the station, Commander Thane listened to this exchange through his communicator. His warriors were still trapped in various sections, sealed behind bulkheads they could not open. He stood in the command center with only a handful of officers, including the young guard Rax who had first escorted Yuna to her cell. "Sir, what do we do?" Rax asked quietly. Thane had no answer. His training had prepared him for combat, for tactics, for strategies involving weapons and warriors. But no one had taught him what to do when the enemy was already inside his walls, controlling his technology, and choosing not to kill him. Yuna's voice came through the command center speakers. "Commander Thane, may I come speak with you? Face to face? You have control of the station," Thane replied bitterly. "You can go anywhere you want." "True, but I am asking for permission. I believe in respecting protocol even in situations like this." Thane almost laughed at the absurdity. Permission granted. 5 minutes later, the command center door opened. Yuna walked in, still wearing the maintenance coveralls. She had returned to her normal appearance, her black hair no longer hidden under the cap. She carried no weapons, kept her hands visible, and moved slowly so no one would perceive her as a threat. She stood in front of Commander Thane and bowed respectfully. "Thank you for agreeing to speak with me." Thane looked down at her. She was so small, so physically weak compared to him. Yet she had defeated him completely without throwing a single punch. "What do you want?" he asked. "I want to prevent a war," Yuna said simply. "Admiral Cade is proud. You are proud. The Vraxian Empire is proud. I understand that. But 5,000 civilians on that transport ship have been living in cramped conditions for 2 months. Children are sick. Elderly people are dying. And on the planet below, colonists are running out of food. This situation cannot continue. The planet falls within Vraxian territory," Thane argued. "According to maps drawn 300 years ago by explorers who never actually visited this system," Yuna countered, "the colonists have lived on Helio 7 for 10 years. They have built homes, schools, farms. They have children who were born on that planet. It is their home now, and we will not abandon them. Then we are at an impasse. No, Commander, we are at a choice. You can choose to let this become a war. My government will send more ships. Your empire will respond. Thousands will die on both sides. Or you can choose to let humanitarian aid through and negotiate a real solution that both sides can accept." A new voice interrupted them. "She is correct, Commander Thane." Everyone turned. A tall, elegant Vraxian woman entered the command center. She wore diplomatic robes instead of military armor. Thane recognized her immediately. "Ambassador Boyoung, what are you doing here?" "Admiral Cade contacted the Vraxian Council when this situation began escalating," Boyoung explained. "They sent me to attempt a peaceful resolution. I arrived just a few minutes ago." She looked at Yuna with interest. "You must be Lieutenant Yuna. I have heard remarkable things about you in the last few hours. You have managed to accomplish something very few diplomats ever achieve. You have made both sides afraid to continue fighting." "I did not want to make anyone afraid," Yuna said. I just wanted to make everyone think clearly about the consequences of their choices. Boyoung nodded. A wise approach. Now shall we discuss terms? I believe we can find a solution that allows both the Vraxian Empire and humanity to maintain their dignity while ending this unfortunate situation. For the next 2 hours they negotiated. It was difficult. The Vraxian Empire did not want to appear weak by backing down. Humanity would not abandon their colonists. Accusations were made, tempers flared. But slowly, piece by piece, they built an agreement. The blockade would be lifted immediately, allowing humanitarian supplies to reach the planet. In exchange, Una would release control of the station's systems and provide the counter-virus to restore normal operations. Both sides would agree to joint negotiations about the planet's territorial status, with neutral arbitrators from the Galactic Coalition. Most importantly, no charges would be filed against Una for her infiltration. Ambassador Boyoung argued successfully that pressing charges would force humanity to defend their officer, which could escalate into the very war everyone wanted to avoid. However, Boyoung added, Lieutenant Una must explain exactly how she compromised our station's security. The Vraxian military needs to understand our vulnerabilities, so we can defend against similar tactics in the future. Una agreed. She stood in front of a room full of Vraxian officers and walked them through every step of her infiltration. How she had studied their psychology and culture before arriving. How she had appeared harmless and cooperative while observing everything. How the data chip contained a virus specifically designed to exploit known weaknesses in Vraxian computer systems. Your scanners looked for weapons, Una explained. They looked for physical threats. But my weapon was information. My weapon was your own technology turned against you. Your scanners measured my physical strength and concluded I was harmless. They did not measure my knowledge, my training, or my determination. Daesom, the intelligence officer, raised her hand. Lieutenant Una, I have studied human history. Your species has a saying, never underestimate an unarmed woman. Can you explain what that means? Una smiled slightly. It means that throughout human history, women have often been dismissed as weak or harmless simply because they lack physical strength. So women learned to fight differently. We learned to fight smart. We learned to use psychology, strategy, and creativity instead of brute force. And we learned that the most dangerous warrior is the one your enemy does not see coming. The room was silent as the Vraxian officers absorbed this. Many of them had daughters, sisters, mothers. They had never considered them as warriors. The concept was foreign and unsettling. Commander Thane spoke up. I judged you by your appearance, by your gender, by your size. I assumed you were weak because our scanners said you were weak. I forgot the most basic rule of warfare. Respect your opponent. For that I apologize. Una bowed to him, and I apologize for deceiving you and your crew. I did not enjoy taking control of your station, but I had my orders and innocent people were depending on me. Rax, the young guard, raised his hand nervously. Lieutenant, may I ask a question? Of course. When you escaped from detention, you passed me in Corridor 7. You could have hurt me, but you did not. Instead, you used a hypospray to make me sleep. You left me a note saying I reminded you of your brother. Why did you show me mercy? Una looked at him thoughtfully. Because you were just doing your job, Rax. You were not cruel to me when I was your prisoner. You brought me water when I asked. You spoke to me respectfully. Why would I hurt you? You were not my enemy. You were just a young man following orders like I was following mine. Rax nodded slowly. Thank you, Lieutenant. That means something to me. The negotiations concluded. Admiral Cade, watching from his flagship, gave the order to lift the blockade. Captain Minho's transport began descending toward Helios 7, finally delivering the colonists to their new home. Una uploaded the counter-virus to the station's systems. Within minutes, all the sealed bulkheads opened. The trapped warriors were freed. The computer systems returned to Vraxian control. Everything went back to normal, except nothing was normal anymore. Everyone on that station had learned something that would stay with them forever. Before Una left, Admiral Cade contacted her directly. His image appeared on a screen in the docking bay. Lieutenant Una, you have caused considerable embarrassment to the Vraxian Empire. I regret that, Admiral, Una replied honestly. But I do not regret saving lives. I understand. However, you should know that this incident will be studied in our military academies for many years. You have shown us a weakness in our security systems and our thinking. We will see. The scanner blinked its cold blue light across the small shuttle. Numbers and data flooded the screen in the Vraxian command center. The alien warriors leaned forward, their forearms crossed as they studied the readings. Single occupant detected, the computer announced in its mechanical voice. Species human, gender female. Age 24 standard years. Physical assessment, no weapons detected. No cybernetic enhancements. No armor plating. Threat level. Minimal. Commander Thane laughed, a deep rumbling sound that echoed through the metal corridors of the orbital station. He was 7 feet tall, covered in thick scaled skin that could stop most bullets. His forearms ended in claws that could tear through steel. Behind him, 300 Vraxian warriors occupied the massive military installation that blocked the planet Helios 7 from receiving any supplies. A human female? Thane said, his voice full of amusement. Alone? Coming to our blockade? His second officer, a younger Vraxian named Rax, checked the scanners again. Sir, the shuttle is requesting permission to dock. The pilot says they carry humanitarian documents for the colony below. Thane walked to the viewing port. Below them, the planet Helios 7 rotated slowly. On its surface, 5,000 human colonists waited for food, medicine, and supplies. The Vraxian Empire had placed the blockade 2 months ago, claiming the planet fell within their territory. The humans disagreed. Negotiations had failed. Now people were hungry. Humanitarian documents? Thane repeated. He turned to his crew. Let her board. I want to see what kind of fool the humans sent to negotiate with us. The shuttle docked 20 minutes later. The airlocks hissed and opened. Una stepped onto the station. She was small compared to the Vraxians, barely 5.5 feet tall. She wore a simple gray uniform with no armor, no weapons belt, no protective gear. Her black hair was tied back in a practical bun. She carried only a small data pad in her hands. 6 Vraxian warriors surrounded her immediately, their weapons pointed at her chest. Una smiled politely and bowed her head slightly. Thank you for allowing me to board, she said in perfect Vraxian language. I am Lieutenant Una of the Human Diplomatic Corps. I have documents that prove the colonists below are civilians in need of aid. I request you review them and consider lifting the blockade. Commander Thane approached her slowly. He towered over her, his shadow swallowing her completely. He expected her to show fear, to step back, to tremble. Instead, Una met his eyes calmly. You came alone, Thane said. Your people are either very brave or very stupid. Perhaps both, Una replied with a slight smile. But mostly we are desperate. Children are hungry, Commander. Whatever dispute our governments have, surely it does not require starving innocents. Thane studied her for a long moment. The scanners had been correct. She was unarmed, unenhanced, and physically weak. A single Vraxian could break her in half without effort. Yet she stood in the middle of his station, surrounded by his warriors, and showed no fear at all. It bothered him, though he could not say why. Take her to detention level 3, Thane ordered. We will verify her documents. If they are legitimate, we will consider her request. As the guards escorted Una away, she looked around carefully. Her eyes took in every detail. The corridor layout, the security cameras, the number of guards at each checkpoint, the location of the life support panels. She asked questions in a friendly, curious voice. How many crew members serve on this station? She asked the guard next to her. 300 warriors, the guard answered proudly. The finest of the Vraxian fleet. That is impressive, Una said. She paused, then added quietly, 300 warriors and only one of me. That seems about right. The guard did not understand what she meant. On her shuttle, still docked to the station, pilot Hyun monitored everything through hidden cameras in Una's uniform button. He watched her being led away. His hands moved across the control panels, preparing backup systems, emergency protocols, and escape routes. His job was simple. Keep the shuttle ready and wait for Una's signal. He trusted her completely. They had trained together for 3 years. He knew that when Una smiled politely and acted harmless, that was when she was most dangerous. In the command center, Admiral Cade's face appeared on the communication screen. He commanded the entire Vraxian fleet from his flagship in high orbit. He had been monitoring the situation with interest. Commander Thane, Cade said, I understand you allowed the human female to board. Yes, Admiral, Thane replied. She claims to carry humanitarian documents. I saw no harm in reviewing them. Be cautious, Cade warned. The humans are new to the Galactic Coalition. We know little about them. With respect, Admiral, our scanners detected no threat. She is physically weak, unarmed, and alone. What harm could she possibly do? Before Cade could respond, another voice joined the conversation. Admiral, this is Intelligence Officer Dasam. I recommend extreme caution with the human prisoner. Dasam appeared on a secondary screen. She was smaller than most Vraxian warriors. Having spent her life studying other species rather than fighting them, she had read every report about humanity available in the galactic databases. The humans are classified as a Type 7 species, Dasam continued. They have no natural weapons, no enhanced strength, no biological advantages. Yet they rose to dominance on their planet and reached spacefaring capability in a remarkably short time. Your point? Thane asked impatiently. My point, Commander, is that they did not survive by being physically strong. They survived by being intelligent, adaptable, and creative. Their military doctrine emphasizes what they call asymmetric warfare. They do not fight fair. They fight smart. Thane waved his hand dismissively. She is one unarmed female against 300 armed warriors. Intelligence only matters when you have the opportunity to use it. Dasam wanted to argue further, but Admiral Cade ended the conversation. Proceed with caution, Commander. But I agree the threat seems minimal. Report any changes immediately. The screens went dark. In her detention cell, Una sat on the metal bench and studied the datapad they had allowed her to keep. It contained the humanitarian documents she had mentioned, official records of the colonists' medical needs, food shortages, and requests for aid. Everything was legitimate, but the datapad contained something else too, something the Vraxian scanners had not detected because they were looking for weapons, not information warfare tools. A guard walked past her cell. Una looked up and smiled. Excuse me, could I trouble you for some water? The recycled air on my shuttle was very dry. The guard hesitated, then nodded. He was young, probably on his first deep space assignment. As he left to find water, Una noticed his security badge and the access codes visible on his belt display. She memorized them instantly. When the guard returned with water, Una thanked him warmly and asked about his family, his home planet, his hopes for the future. The guard, unused to friendly conversation from prisoners, found himself talking freely. Una learned about the station's shift rotations, meal times, and crew complaints about the aging life support systems. She learned which sections were always crowded and which were usually empty. She learned the names of officers and which ones were respected versus which ones were feared, all while appearing to be nothing more than a friendly, harmless young woman passing time in detention. Hours passed. Commander Thane reviewed her documents and confirmed they were authentic. The colonists below genuinely needed help, but the Vraxian Empire's pride was at stake. They could not simply back down because one human asked politely. Thane decided to make her wait. Let her sit in the cell for a few days. Let her understand that humanity had no power here. It was the last mistake he would make for a long time. In the maintenance tunnels beneath the detention level, where no one was watching, a small data chip that had fallen from Una's pocket when she first boarded began transmitting. The Vraxian scanners had analyzed it thoroughly, finding only the humanitarian documents. They had missed the adaptive virus hidden in its programming code, a virus designed specifically to exploit Vraxian computer systems, a virus that was now spreading through the station's network like invisible fire. Una sat in her cell and waited. Everything was proceeding exactly according to plan. The first sign of trouble was a flickering light in Corridor 7. A maintenance crew was called. They checked the power conduits and found nothing wrong. The light stopped flickering. 2 hours later, a door in the storage section sealed itself shut. The crew inside had to manually override the lock to get out. The technicians blamed it on the station's age. The Vraxian military had been using this installation for 40 years. Small malfunctions were normal. Commander Thane paid no attention to these minor issues. He was in his office composing a message to Admiral Cade about the human prisoner. He would recommend they keep her for a few more days, then send her back without granting her request. It would show the humans that the Vraxian Empire did not bend to their demands. In her cell, Una asked for a book to read. The guards, finding her polite and non-threatening, gave her access to the station's library database through a secured terminal. She thanked them and began reading about Vraxian history and culture. What the guards did not notice was that Una's fingers moved in strange patterns across the terminal. She was not just reading, She was mapping the entire computer network, noting every connected system, every security protocol, every backup power source. The virus she had introduced to the station systems was learning too. It adapted to the Vraxian security measures, copied their command codes, and hid itself in routine maintenance subroutines. To the Vraxian computers, the virus looked like normal system operations. On her shuttle, Hyun detected increased scanning activity from the station. They were checking her shuttle systems repeatedly, looking for anything suspicious. They found nothing. Hyun had stripped the shuttle of anything that could be traced back to human military operations. It appeared to be exactly what it claimed, a simple diplomatic courier vessel. But hidden in the shuttle's communication array was a tight beam transmitter. It sent encrypted signals to a ship waiting at the edge of the star system. A ship under the command of Captain Minho, who watched the situation carefully and waited for his orders. The second day after Yuna's arrival, more systems began failing. The climate control in Section 4 stopped working, making the temperature rise to uncomfortable levels. A security camera in the armory went offline. The mess hall's food processors produced meals that tasted wrong. The technical crews worked constantly, fixing each problem as it appeared. But new issues kept emerging. It was like the station itself was sick. Daesam, the intelligence officer, monitored these reports from Admiral Cade's flagship. She noticed a pattern. Every malfunction occurred in a system that Yuna could have observed during her brief walk from the docking bay to the detention level. Daesam pulled up the security footage and watched Yuna's arrival again. The human woman had seemed distracted, looking around constantly. Daesam had assumed she was afraid or nervous, but watching the footage now, Daesam realized Yuna had been studying everything. Her eyes had lingered on control panels, security checkpoints, and maintenance access ports. Daesam opened a communication channel to Commander Thane. "Sir, I need to speak with you immediately." "I am busy, Officer Daesam," Thane replied. "Unless this is urgent." "Sir, I believe the human prisoner is responsible for our system malfunctions." There was silence. Then Thane laughed. "She has been in a sealed detention cell for 2 days. She has no tools, no computer access beyond a reading terminal, and no contact with her shuttle. How could she possibly sabotage our station?" "The data chip, sir. The one she dropped when she boarded. We analyzed it and found only documents, so we returned it to her. But I believe it contained something else, something our scanners missed." Thane's expression changed. He terminated the call and ran to the security office. "Pull up the network diagnostics," he ordered. "Show me all system activities from the past 48 hours. The technician worked quickly. Lines of code filled the screens. Most of it was normal. But buried in the routine operations were subroutines that should not exist. Small programs that had no clear purpose. They were spreading through the system like weeds, touching every connected computer. "Isolate them," Thane commanded. "Delete those programs immediately," the technician tried. But every time he deleted one subroutine, 2 more appeared. The programs were replicating faster than he could remove them. "Sir, I cannot stop them. They are adapting to my commands." Thane felt cold fear for the first time in years. He ran to the detention level. The cell was empty. The door stood open. The lock had been overridden from the inside. But that should have been impossible without proper access codes. Yuna was gone. "Sound the alarm," Thane roared. "Lock down the station. Find the human." Sirens wailed through the corridors. Bulkheads sealed automatically, dividing the station into secure sections. 300 Vraxian warriors grabbed their weapons and began searching. The scanner system attempted to locate Yuna. It detected her thermal signature in the maintenance tunnels on level 6. Warriors rushed to that location, but when they arrived, the tunnels were empty. The scanners updated. She was now in Section 9, then Section 3, then back to level 8. "She is jamming our sensors," the security chief reported. "I cannot get an accurate location. She is one small human," Thane shouted. "How is she doing this?" Dasam's voice came through his communicator. "Commander, I am analyzing her behavior patterns. She has been preparing for this since she boarded. Every question she asked the guards, every system she observed, every moment of apparent cooperation was part of a larger plan. She is not a simple courier. She is a trained infiltrator." "What does she want?" Thane demanded. "I believe she wants to prove a point, sir. She wants to show us that humans are more dangerous than we assumed." In the maintenance tunnel on level 12, Una moved silently through the darkness. She had changed out of her uniform and into maintenance coveralls taken from a storage locker. Her hair was hidden under a worker's cap. She carried a tool bag that she had found in a repair station. To any guard who saw her from a distance, she looked like another technician responding to the station's many malfunctions. She reached a secondary computer terminal and connected her datapad. Lines of code streamed across the screen. She was not trying to destroy the station. She was taking control of it. Every door, every camera, every environmental system now responded to her commands instead of Commander Thane's. 2 guards rounded a corner and saw her.
"You there, stop!"
Una did not run. She turned and looked at them calmly. "I am checking the climate control malfunction in this section," she said in Vraxian. "There is a pressure leak that needs immediate attention." The guards hesitated. She looked like a maintenance worker. She sounded confident, but they had orders to check everyone. "Show us your identification," one guard demanded. Una reached for her tool bag. The guards raised their weapons, but instead of a weapon, Una pulled out a datapad showing a false maintenance work order. It looked completely official because it had been generated by the station's own computer system under her control. "I am Technician Vera, assigned to emergency repairs," Una said. She had learned that name from the roster she accessed earlier. It belonged to a real technician currently working on another level. The guards checked their own datapads. The work order appeared in their system. They lowered their weapons. "Proceed," one said. "But be careful. There is a dangerous prisoner loose on the station." "I will be careful," Una promised. She walked past them calmly. Once they were gone, she allowed herself a small smile. The guards had been professional and cautious. Under different circumstances, she might have respected them. But right now, they were obstacles in her mission. She reached the Environmental Control Center and sealed herself inside. Here she had access to the station's life support systems. She could vent atmosphere from entire sections. She could adjust gravity. She could make the station uninhabitable. But she did none of those things. Instead, she programmed the system to seal specific corridors and rooms. She trapped groups of warriors in different sections of the station, separating them from their weapons and from each other. She did it carefully, ensuring no one was hurt. Each sealed section had adequate air, water, and supplies. She was not trying to kill anyone. She was demonstrating that she could have killed everyone if she wanted to, but chose not to. In the command center, Commander Thane watched his station fall apart, bulkheads sealed randomly. Warriors were trapped in different sections. The security system showed Una in 6 different locations simultaneously, which was impossible. "She has complete control," the security chief reported, his voice full of disbelief. "The station's computer systems are no longer responding to our commands. They are responding to hers." Thane's communicator activated. It was Una's voice. "Commander Thane, can you hear me?" "Yes," Thane said coldly. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something," Una replied. "I walked onto your station alone and unarmed. Your scanners told you I was no threat. But in less than 3 days, I have taken control of your entire installation. I could kill all 300 of your warriors by venting atmosphere. I could destroy your life support. I could crash your computer systems and leave you stranded in space." "Then why have you not?" Thane demanded. "Because I do not want to kill anyone, Commander."